Welcome back to Momentous Struggle, a Star Wars Shatterpoint podcast. On this week's episode, I have a special guest from Adepticon coming to talk to us about the events that they're going to be running over there at the greatest event for miniature gaming I know of, anyway. And it's Chris Mehrstedt. How you doing, Chris?
Hey, I'm great. How about yourself, Todd?
I'm doing fantastic, man. I'm excited to jump in here and talk about some Shatterpoint stuff with you. So for those who might not know who you are, can you give us a brief rundown of who you are and why it's exciting to talk to you?
Yeah, so Chris Mehrstedt, again, as you said, Chris is fine. Been with Adepticon really since inception, and I'm currently heading up all of the Shatterpoint stuff at Adepticon, right? So if you want to pick a brain for what's going to happen there and what are we thinking, I'm a pretty good brain to pick for that, I guess is the way to say it. So.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm excited. Like it seems like they've changed up a couple of things. I think a lot of those for the better, and definitely. But before we even jumped into that, we were talking beforehand about how you work on like the spray team and like putting together a lot of the stuff for Adepticon. So I mean, what does that mean for the people like that they see the spray team? What it really is that?
So Hank Edley, one of the principal organizers, right, has converted 4-car garage, if you want to put it in terms people can get their heads around, right? A 4-car garage into basically a professional spray area, right? It's still a garage, but we've got, an industrial air compressor. We can run 15 airbrushes. And so for a weekend, it'll just be a bunch of dudes sitting there, right, spraying or dry brushing or doing detail work. And all of the terrain, not limited to Shatterpoint. We did a bunch of Shatterpoint tables, but Legion, right, Shatterpoint, or like every place that Adepticon provides terrain for pretty much goes through spray team. So you get real good at one thing if you want to learn how to, I spent one weekend painting life tables. So it was like green, 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 green. Lighter green, lighter green, lighter green, lighter green, lighter than that green. So yeah, we just crank, right? The last time I was there, not to brag about me, but the last time I was there was four people that had won Golden Demon sitting around painting terrain for Adepticon.
That's pretty cool. I mean, that you have that kind of experience and just caliber of painters that just show up to paint the terrain and everything that everyone gets to enjoy at Adepticon. So that's pretty awesome that especially that you have the ability to go out and do that and kind of put all that together for everyone to enjoy. So I mean, as far as from someone who gets to enjoy seeing all of the tables and everything, I want to say thank you for that because that's pretty awesome.
It's a ton of fun, and like I said, you get to kind of hang around with people that really know, and then I always learn something, and then you get to like lab practical it, right? Just work on that thing for a weekend, and you get really good at it, and it gains the skills. So yeah, I enjoy it. It's a ton of fun.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like hobby goes, I'm sure that's like just a pretty awesome experience to kind of get that experience from other people and like kind of like hone those skills and continue to just improve as a hobbyist. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
so, yeah
I was going to say one more thing. Like one of the biggest things that I get out of it is it's really wild is color palettes, right? Like, take this brown and this green and this yellow and it makes cool. And you're like, I never would have dreamed that up. And then like you rip them out and then like we take pictures of all of the recipes. And so you end up with a recipe book of like, oh, if you want that green, it's these 4 colors. If you want that wood, it's start with plum and then put an orange on it. And you're like, what? And you get to the end and you're like, oh my God, this is amazing.
That's very cool. Very, very cool. Cool. Yeah, so I mean, like I said, I think Aubrey and I were talking earlier, maybe a couple weeks ago, about how like it's really cool to come back and like really experience going to Adepticon and your team and the years that you guys have, like, it's been the same team, you and Joe and everyone just kind of coming back and doing the same thing, and you guys have really gotten a really good rhythm as far as running the tournament and running the events together and everything like that. How long have you guys been together running these events?
So again, like Joe and I go way back into some other game systems that I started playing at Adepticon, and then shortly thereafter was running one of the larger tournaments, and Joe was also helping me run. So I mean, decades, right? Took a little break until Shatterpoint came out, and it was like, oh, hey, this is cool. So it's it's a similar idea, right? The organizational skill set and like just the public interface and being on time, setting a schedule, meeting that schedule so that everybody can kind of, like that kind of stuff is stuff we learned along the way, and then we're picking up Shatterpoint. But John runs all the Learn to Play stuff, and he's been with Adepticon pretty much forever. We've adopted one of Hank's sons, Liam.
Yep.
So we've kind of pulled him into the fold, and then one of the local guys, Josh and Madison here, is he kind of we picked him up along the way because we were playing. It was like, hey, you know what you're doing? Like, I know what that looks like. Like, why don't you come help? And he's like, yeah, cool, right? So we've grown a little bit organically that way. But again, like Adepticon has this core group, right? You see it in Spray Team, you see it in the events coordinators, you see it, like you have this core group that have been with the con for a long, long time. So it just grows out of that.
Kind of just a family, so to speak, of it all. I mean, you just kind of, I've noticed that, like, because this will be my third year with Adepticon now, and you kind of notice that you kind of become part of, like, you see people that have just been there forever, and it's like, it's not just, one person. Is like you, and then your kids are there, and then and like with like Hank, and he has his sons are there helping out, and then but there's people that are like also our friends of Hank's that were with him from the time the con started, and their kids are actually now volunteers and stuff too. So you see that it's a very family focused organization. I think I truly admire about how the organization and how the con has kind of grown.
Yeah, we all grew up gaming together, right? And it was like, exactly. Then this convention started, and it was like eventually you evolve into like, okay, I'm going to help, right? And then it becomes kind of our hobby, right? Like our hobby time becomes building stuff for the convention or doing things for the convention, right? And then afterwards, we get together for breakfast on Monday morning as a group. There's, usually like 100 of us, right? Mm-hmm. And then Hank we do like a staff party in July, right? And it's just a weekend at Hank's house, and we grill out and play games and just hang out, and like we did before the convention, right? So we're all friends that way, right? And then that's the unofficial kickoff of like, hey, it's July, we need to start thinking about the next one.
That's very cool. All right, cool. Well, yeah, so I like that. I wanted to kind of just like break the ice a little bit, maybe get people know you a little bit more, but kind of wanted to jump into talking about like what's going on this year at the con. So they do have, we were talking earlier, like key operations really seems to be kind of a focal point for this. Like the campaign that they're going to be running throughout the con this year is like a key operations focused campaign. How do you think that's going to play out? I mean, have you give thoughts to that on like that?
I mean, so if you don't prepare ahead of time, it's probably a little bit of a shocker because it's not your standard like set up and play objectives, pick a mission type, right? Each of their key operations, it's kind of like a thematic, and I call it asymmetric warfare, right? You're trying to break into an installation, or you're trying, right? And so one person is defined as the aggressor, and one person is defined as the defender or the sentries, right? And then it's really a race against the clock, right? The number of turns before like the alarms go off and like your mission fails or you get in, right? So it's fun. I enjoy it a ton. I think it's in a good place for League, because League is like, hey, you want to play? Sure. Okay, cool. Like totally informal, right? And so it's functionally a pickup game, but it's a pickup game that is going to give you a different taste, different flavor than you are used to, right? It's not just like grabbing some random guy at the local game store and let's play a game, right? And you just, right? It's a tournament game of one game, right? This is more of a different flavor. And then obviously all the prize tickets, right? Unlocking the prize wall that's the other reason to do it. So I think it'll be fun. Yeah. And they've got a bunch of different flavors of key operations out there. I think the campaign will focus kind of on one version of it, but it'll give somebody a different flavor for playing Shatterpoint.
Yeah, I really think like with this, players, if they're going to be doing the League, should probably give key operations a shot probably before they go to Adepticon, just so they're used to the differences in the playing experience, because it's not, like you said, it's not your normal tournament style of playing Shatterpoint for sure. So
yeah,
I'm excited to see.
Yeah, key concepts are there, but it's with a twist, right? So
Exactly. One of the things I was very excited to see change, and I don't know if, because we were talking about this after Adepticon last year, was that the team tournament moved to the Thursday. Is that something that you actively worked on doing, or?
It's just the way that Worlds evolved. The place that was left for the team tournament was Thursday. It just made sense, right? Um, and now that we're not running two heats, like then that was the concern last year. Is you had to either decide, well, I'm going to run in one heat and play in the team tournament, or I'm gonna and now that the heat structure is gone and we can support the larger player base, then it makes sense for the team tournament to have its own day. At which point, then Thursday became the day that makes the most sense, right? So,
yeah, very excited about that. I mean, like, especially because I think now you're going to be able to have the people that like focus on being able to do the display pieces and everything along those lines. Because I think there was, with having only half the people that probably could have played in the team tournament, I think you lost out on a little bit of that. I mean, I know that's one of your favorite things about is that too.
Yeah, team tournament and Adepticon. Like one of the core tenets of Adepticon is team tournaments. We try to run them in every right. And again, it's a different game when you and I are like, what should we do here, right? Kind of the kibitz back and forth, as well as it's an opportunity. And part of the reason I like it so much is it's a chance to tell a story with your hobby, right? So find something you like about, in this case, Star Wars, right? Last year we had somebody do a phenomenal job of it was like a credit exchange gone wrong between Cad Bane and Han Solo, and there was a Millennium Falcon in the back, and everybody was set shooting at each other, and Chewie had one of the arms ripped off a droid, and you could just look at it and you knew what was going on, right? Yeah. And so the team tournament gives people the ability to express that, to show that in the hobby side of it, which I love. And then we have the ability to recognize that in the showcase. And so you go out in the foyer area with all the other phenomenal entries, right? And the whole con can see, right? And so Shatterpoint's represented there. Cool honor for the people that put in the effort. It's great to recognize that, right? Reward what you want to see more of. But again, it's when you give this community the ability to do something cool, hey, do something cool, and they're like, okay, and then you're like, oh, that is cool, right? The team tournament brings that out, which I love.
Yeah, and I like that. I mean, one of the things I was kind of looking through some of the rules that because on January earlier this month, they started putting all the rules for all the different things onto Adepticon's website, and you do actually focus on the team tournament and the rules about the different awards that can be given out. So yes, there's best overall, but there's best team appearance, there's best display, there's best spirit. And I like that there's these additional awards that talk about the experience of playing, not just being the best player, but actually the experience of playing in the events and everything like that.
Yeah, or community building, right? At its core, right, all gamers are doing that, right? You're trying to build a larger community of people to play with. It keeps your game strong, gives you variety of, it's just good for everybody when you do that. And so this is just another avenue for people to do things that engage the community and, again, that rule of cool. That's cool. Other people should see this cool thing you did, right? Whatever it is. And it's super open-ended that, find a story in Star Wars and tell the story with your hobby skills.
Definitely. Yeah, I am looking forward to it, especially to see the real cool stuff that comes out. I know they just expanded the amount of players that were able to play in the team event too. I think we were talking about that. You said 64 teams, so there's still 15 spots available. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, that's over 100 players that we're almost at right now for the team event. So that's very exciting to sit there and see that large of an event going on. And then there's oh, go ahead.
I was going to say 100 people playing Shatterpoint on Thursday, right? And we ran 95, I think, in the championships last year between the two heats. So, the off-day event is higher than the championships was last year. That's awesome. So
it's fantastic. Fantastic. And I know that there's all sorts of other events like you're doing continuously doing key operations side events. You're doing the legendary encounter side events as well. How are those going to work out with those new things getting added in?
So, one of the things we were talking about is Adepticon as a family, right? And when we all started doing this, we were like 20. And now we've all got 4s, and some of us have 5s, and some of us have 6s in front of our ages, right? And we've got family, and we've got other obligations. For some people, the concept of playing a 10-hour, 12-hour, 4-round tournament is like, dude, that's past my prime, right? And so these are alternative offerings that they're one and dones, right? So you come, the key operations will make a distinction here. Like there's the league, which you can do whenever you want, and then there's actually an organized, I will provide you with a partner, right? Here you go, you guys are going to play a game of key operations, right? And you also have the benefit of having like a judge staff there to help you work through things, right? And if there's questions come up, right? Not that we won't help somebody playing league, but it's a little harder, right? It's for us as judges to have it contained, right? So you get one-off events, you get prize tickets for it, but it's a way for somebody who's like, I'm not doing a 4-game tournament to still come and do something that is entertaining, right? So you got key operations, which we talked a little bit about. There's a legendary encounters where like you fight the movie version of Anakin, right? Right? Like they get really beefed up, or Asajj Ventress gets really beefed up, like way beyond what they are in the game. So it's kind of like I call it King of the Hill, right? Kind of like you're going after the big baddie, right? The galactic legend. So that's the legendary encounters piece. And then the new one that has everybody psyched out, and I'm not going to give away too much, but it's called Battles in the Sand. I'm just going to say it's a 4-for-all. So
I'm excited. For that one.
You bring a squad. Sorry, you bring a strike team. You get a squad. So you pick one, and it's a 4-for-all. Like, so, again, like total different play. Like same concepts as the team tournament, though. Right? Now you're getting 4 people on a table. That is a different dynamic. That can be more fun. That can be more engaging, right? And so it lets you lean into that style. And again, like it's a one and done, right? And then once you know it, like theoretically, you could take that back to your games. So you build your community, right? Here's another way that we can, on a Thursday night, if we only have a couple hours, like 4 people can slam this thing, right? So it's pretty cool.
I'm excited to see how this ends up playing out and like what the actual rules that were developed for this are. So I'm very excited to see that, because I think that's something, especially coming from like the MCP side of the gaming. They have a free for all 4-player style of game there too, which is wildly successful and popular. So I'm assuming this is going to be kind of around the same vein.
Yeah, I believe it works with 3 or 4. So I'm not going to give away too much, get myself in trouble, but.
Yeah, no, yeah. I don't want to put you out there to put you on the spot or anything like that. But like I said, I'm very excited for it. I mean, and of course, so that's basically Thursday is that starting out there. But then you're going into the World Championship qualifier on Friday, and there's only 10 spots left for that, and I believe that was at 128 players, I think was what that started at. So 118 players just for that. That's not including the players that are automatically qualified from winning a GT.
Yep, so we could have 15 more that are auto-qualified because of their performance in a previous event. So yeah, there's participation there over 130. Like, that's cool.
That is amazing that you're going to have that large of an increase. I mean, over 100 players for the World Championship is wild. So tell me, like with that one, I mean, what are you looking at as far as like how that is going to play out for the World Championships with like such a large group of players now?
So I think I'll describe it like this: if you're playing on Friday, so you have not previously won a grand tournament for Shatterpoint in the last year, right? Which actually includes I can't remember his name, but the guy who won Adepticon last year,
Scott.
Yeah. So him forward, like all those people are eligible for a free spot on Saturday, right? Everyone else plays on Friday. So you have this variable number. Let's just stay at 15 for a moment, right? You're going to play on Friday in basically a 4-round Premier Showdown, right? So you have Can't Avoid Your Destiny, all those different things, right? And you're playing for the top cuts. And it'll be 64, in this case, we'll say minus 15. So we're going to cut the top 49 people and then stick the other 15 in that auto-qualified. And those people will all move to Saturday. And then we start the whole thing over. It's a complete reset, 64, new Swiss tournament, not seeded, so everything's random again. And you play another 4 rounds out of there. Again, same thing, can't escape your destiny, resets, so you're going to have to, like, if you're playing on Friday, you got to use all the squads. If you make it to Saturday, you got to use them all again, right? And the goal there is to make it to the top 8 out of the 64. And the top 8 will play on Sunday.
So if it's a whole new thing, because this might come up, would someone be able to change out a squad from one day to the next? So you still have to play the same registered list. Okay.
Yep, you carry the list through, but everything resets for the purposes of like what you played, right? And you don't carry your score, you don't carry your seeding. Like it's be in the top 49-ish. Again, it's going to be a little variable depending on who shows up and everything. So I had to get real creative with the language there. Like it's top 64 minus the people who are pre-qualified, so it's some variable number in there of people. Like make that cut, right? Mm-hmm. And I think the other thing that's important there is like these first 2 days are not one and dones. Like you don't have to drop after a first loss because you have no prayer, right? Probably a little tougher on day 2, right? But on Friday you can take a loss and still make the right. You can make the top 40-ish, right? Whatever that number ends up being. Maybe a little tougher on Saturday, right? But you have the ability to stumble and still like feel like you're in it, and that was important, right? Because you're asking a lot of people when you're committing to a world championship that they don't. Oh, I lost my first game. I guess that's my Adepticon.
Right. And that can lead to a feel bad sometimes if like they don't want don't have a side event planned or something like that. You just I lost my first event, I'm gone for the day. So I like that you have the ability to sit there and continue to play, and you're not just I lost, I'm done for this. That goes my entire day. Now I have 6 hours, 8 hours to sit there and figure out what I'm going to do with the rest of my day.
Yeah, and if Friday doesn't go well for you, right? Has to some of the people are not going to have as good a day as the others. There is a Premier Showdown on Saturday as well. So you can play again, right, in a very similar style tournament, right? Premier Showdown, no cut there, right? But we're just going to run a 4 basically in parallel. I think we opened that at 32. Wait lists will be important there because I know there are people that booked Saturday and will make the cut and then drop right? So there'll be some filler in there if you want to fill in. Or that's why, that legendary encounter we talked about, or key operations, or battle in the sands, those are all offered in a mix on Thursday, and a mix on Friday, and a mix on Saturday, and a mix on Sunday. So there's the ability to just drop into one of those as well, right? If your day doesn't go quite as well as you want it to. And that's really the other reason why they're there, right? Is to give people some other stuff to do. If the big tournaments don't go your way, right? There's other stuff to do.
It makes sense. I mean, you want to have a mix of it, because I think that, especially like, let's say for example, you get to Saturday, you played in the team event, then you played in the qualifier. Now you're in the top 64. You've played 2 rounds there. You're like, man, I am done playing just like the standard way of playing. It's a good palate cleanser to sit there and maybe play key operations or something a little different. And I think that's nice to have those different palate cleansers for the game when you're still playing Shatterpoint. Outstanding. And then, so going into Sunday, of course, you're going to have the top 8, and you guys decided to bring back adversaries and allies again. It's an interesting event. I know that there's still. Have you given thought to like how the list building can be difficult? I know like some people like try and break the adversaries and allies especially like with Lando and stuff like that.
So. If you're playing an event on Sunday, right? Like, and we talk about this a little bit when I'm on the floor with the players, right? You're in the team tournament. This is a fly casual event. Have fun, be cool, right? Okay, we're in the World Championships. This is the penultimate competitive event. It's like treat it as such, right?
Right.
You get to Sunday morning, we're in adversaries to allies, man. We're like super fly casual here. Like, this is just throw some dice on a Sunday morning. Right, maybe knock some of the dust off. You had a bad day, or you just, So, I mean, you can do it, but it's not really why we're there on a Sunday morning to right throw dice.
Right.
So
It's one of those things I found interesting. Is like there's always going to be those tryhards that try and break the game or something like that.
and I think the bigger one, the one that was a little bit weird, was Jedi Hunter Vader because of all of the people that he could touch before the touch up and the rebalance, and now that he's been reined back in a little bit, right, to only touch what Galactic Empire and the
Republic.
Clone Wars era, right? Like
Yep.
his reach, because he was kind of the auto include, like, oh well, I can't be friends with anybody, and he can be friends with anybody, right? Like, so he was sort of an auto, and now that they've kind of reined him in a little bit, like I think that also will reset the baseline of what's acceptable there. But again, like the intent on that one is to just, here's a different flavor of Shatterpoint. It's gonna push people into some lists that maybe aren't Cassian Revenge Trigger lists, right? That's for Friday. We're gonna see a lot of that on Friday, and so it's there to give you a different flavor. So
Without a doubt, yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of different things happening on there. Did you do you feel like as a tournament organizer, I mean, with adding in all these different side events, how do you balance all of those that are going to be happening? Because you have a good crew, and I know that your crew is going to sit there and really kind of make sure that everything goes off without a hitch. But like, I know, like, as I don't even run things at the level of Adepticon. How do you like keep like that? The duck on a pond with you just spinning everywhere.
yeah, well, so a couple of things. Like we have done this for a minute, right? So we've seen a few things there. Personally, it's a great staff, so like that makes it a lot easier if you can trust somebody. Like, hey, Josh, I'm giving you this tournament. Cool, I got it. Roll, right? One of the roles I have is I have somebody that just their job is to keep us on. They're like the master scheduler for the day, and so they know all the stuff. They know what the random game length is, when we're calling, right, when we're calling different things. Like, we got this starting in 30 minutes. We got, right. So everybody kind of has their roles laid out of like where they're going to go, but then one person is basically in charge of like, hey, this is up. Hey, this is up, right? And I actually, as the tournament order, take direction from them. They're like, you're making this announcement. Okay, cool, right? And so that helps us just, right? And that's like what they do that day, is just keep us on track, right? And then everybody else breaks out into what their assignments are. I think the other part is rotating through. Like, we doubled the size of Learn to Play. We don't talk about that a ton here because I would assume most of your audience knows how to play Shatterpoint. But we also run 3 sessions a day for 8 people who have never played Shatterpoint. And are like, that looks cool. And we will walk them through, like, here's the concept of the game to actually making in-game decisions in about an hour and a half, right? So more than a demo, less than a full game, but keeping someone fresh, right? Teaching 8 sessions 3 times a day, right? And there's a couple of people over there, but we'll rotate in and out of there. But again, like, the schedule guys are like, you're going here, right? So
Makes sense. Yeah, I mean, and I think John's probably the one who does that the most. He's fantastic at it. It's like he's a machine when it comes to sit there doing those learn to plays. He's fantastic. So I'm excited to see everybody for sure. Like, I think that's the biggest thing when it comes to Adepticon, is really seeing all of the players. I mean, what are you the most excited about, like, with this coming up Adepticon?
I think personally, me, in my excitement about Shatterpoint is how list building has gotten more creative in the last year, right? I think if you rewind to the last Adepticon, there were some archetypes like, Empire is this, right? And Galactic Republic is this if you played it, or, but it was pretty linear of like, this does this, this does this, this does this, right? And I've seen some list builds of like people getting super creative with, right? Now that stated, we're all spending a lot of time preparing for like what triggers when, why, and how, right? Because like the Cassian Revenge trigger is different than the Kanan Revenge trigger, which is a little different than the Leia Revenge trigger, and like if this happens this way, it will, and if this happens this way, it happens differently, and this is an attack, and this isn't. So we're spending a lot of time in that space, making sure everybody understands that, because I think that's where most of the questions are going to be. But I'm excited that other people are coming up with some really creative use of lists, right? In Mando, and the bounty hunters are finding play because you can come up with like weird variations, and so like, and I've seen some stuff with the Padme from the Galactic Republic side, because like you can make Sev and Scorch like capture objectives even when they're defeated, and you can give them extra dice when they're not defeated, so like they're extra, like, so there's just these cool like offshoot lists that are popping up, and like, to me, that makes the game more interesting.
Yeah, definitely. There was a tournament I ran where someone was playing the Padme box with the boss box, and it was just such a really cool, inventive list. So there's a lot. I think that's one of the things. Like, I know there hasn't been a lot of releases this year, but it gave a lot of room for exploration of list building and playing, which is really kind of cool. So yeah, I'm excited to see kind of what comes in at Adepticon. And so I guess, like, to kind of close out, I mean, you've been at Adepticon since its inception. What are some of the highlights that people, like, outside of just playing in the event, what are some of the highlights of Adepticon? What makes it the event where people really need to go and do? And like, outside of just playing in your event, maybe what is something you should be doing at Adepticon?
So, wow.
I know that's a lot.
I'll start with one we mentioned, right? The team tournament showcase. I'll put it up against anything anybody has on the planet as far as like hobby, right? The levels that, and it's across game systems, right? Like every game system now has the ability to get into, whether you're a Shatterpoint scale skirmish game or a full-on, Legion style battle, right? Everybody has a shot at getting into that thing, and it is a spectacle unlike, right, when you walk through it. So that's a huge piece. If you're not committed to playing all 4 days and you want to get better at something hobby-wise, take a class. I mean, we were talking about spray team. There's a spray team class this year. They're going to talk a little bit more about how do you pump out tons and tons and tons of terrain, right? And they're offering that on multiple days. In fact, I'll be printing some of the terrain that you'll be painting if you take that class. But the class offerings, right? You get into the hobby instructors, and there are people that know a lot of stuff about hobby. And if you want to get better at something, you can find a class to focus on. I want to get better at base coating. I want to get better at shading. I want to get better at painting terrain. There's a class to take, right? And then the other big change, if you visit us at Adepticon when we were in Schaumburg, it was kind of an island, right? Like the hotel was kind of off, right? There were some freeways around, but it was a bit of a drive to get to a restaurant or a bar, right? Unless you wanted to be in the hotel bar. Downtown Milwaukee is got anything you want within walking distance, and I live 15 minutes from the Barrett Center, so like every ethnicity of food you want to eat, you can walk or take a cab to. Every beverage you want to drink is within walking distance, and there's tons of different little boutique bars and different places to go. Like you're in the middle of a metropolitan city that's just a nick under 1 million people. There's a lot of stuff to do, and there's a lot of good food, right? So just experiencing the city is another thing I think you have to do, right? It's all what's on your time budget.
Right. Yeah, that's the biggest thing.
Those are the highlights, right? You get in on Wednesday, right? Wednesday, grab some food, right? I mean, the Bucks might even be playing. I didn't check the schedule, right? But there's last year the Bucks gave Adepticon discounts if you wanted to go catch an NBA game, right? If they're in town over there, that's available. There's, like I said, you have an entire metropolitan area within walking distance that you can is at your disposal. So it's certainly something to try and take in while you're there as well.
Yeah, there's actually a Harley factory not too far from there either. So like you could take tours of that. I'm like, there's all sorts
Yeah.
of cool things that you can do.
Yeah, so Harley grew up in Milwaukee, right? And they have their
Right,
museum. Their corporate
right,
Harley museum is I'm walk might be a stretch depending on what your hotel you're in, but it's a 5 minute Uber, right?
right.
So yeah, there's and then if there's the art museum, right? The Calatravos people, the giant whale tail building, right? That's an art museum. There's a ton of stuff down there I mean, we spent an entire episode talking about Milwaukee because there's cool stuff to do.
Yeah, I mean it's exciting though. I was going from Schaumburg to this location now in Milwaukee. It opened up a lot. I mean, like you were saying, it's you can just walk anywhere and like there's that little like marketplace that has like 20 different types of food and the wall of beer that just like I think that became kind of a central hangout for a lot of people. Like every night was just going there and you could, oh, I want to have this to eat tonight or that, you could try any different style of food at any point in time. So that was really cool. I really like I think the move was good just for the point of like attendees now that they have more options and more things to do. So definitely excited for that for sure.
Yeah, that Third Street Market it's a cool story because that used to be a mall, like a full on walking mall. And then, malls are not really a thing anymore. They've kind of gone the way. And so it was open property and they converted a bunch of it into like apartment slash condos, right? So like all the upper levels of it, right? And so you have this central spire that existed in a mall, right? You think of like the central area where the elevators are and like all the visibility, right? You have that central area, and the upper portion has been turned into like apartment complexes or condos, and then the lower section is what you described, and it's just a giant food court, right? And then the wall of beer, you get a card and you just put your glass and tap the card and it fills the beer. And if you want a different beer, you go to a different one. And like you can do that as long as you want, and you just close out at the end. Like, yeah, it's exactly what that's for, right? It's like you're in the central business district, so that's where the business folks go to unwind at the end of the day. There's shuffleboard, there's other stuff you can play, right? And it's just a cool place to hang out, and all the food in the world is there, and it's like you can literally kitty corner from the Baird Center. The main entrance from Baird Center is literally kitty corner aimed at it, so it's pretty easy to get to. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I like the change was definitely I think well worth it. I mean, and the con was outgrowing Schaumburg to begin with.
Yeah, and my perspective on it too when I was there was like, I never saw the sun. It'd come down before the sun was up. We'd work until the sun was down, and then you couldn't really leave the hotel, right?
Yeah.
And so I didn't see the sun for 5 days, and it's like now we can we get in, we set up on Tuesday or Wednesday, and then we can walk over to Third Street Market, get some food. My wife and kids came down. We went out to dinner Friday night. We were in an Italian restaurant at 10 o'clock at night, and they had like a half-hour wait, and it was packed. Right, because like Adepticon just invaded,
Yes.
But we had a chance to get, a meal, which was great to get out of the hotel a little bit, right, or to get out of the convention center, and that's available to everybody. So definitely plan for being able to eat and entertain while you're there.
Definitely, definitely. Well, I'm excited. I'm excited to see how this all goes and everything along those lines. I mean, I guess that's like kind of really all I wanted to talk about with you. I was trying to get a like a sneak peek, an early look at what to expect. I mean, it's going to be a lot of players. It's grown. I mean, especially when you look at like Shatterpoint from 2 years ago, to where we are now. That the event has grown leaps and bounds. I'm excited to see where we go from here.
It's basically doubled, right? Year one, 60-ish, right? And we'll be 130 plus in the World Championships. So that's a double in 2 years. That's about as aggressive as right. In fact, that was part of the planning of like where do we want to set the numbers. Other AMG, like we can talk MCP, we can talk Legion, right? They're all crossovers. They're also their numbers are. I mean, all their tournaments got sold out and bumped, right? So
Yeah.
all the AMG properties are doing well at Adepticon, which is, I mean, that's good for all of us, right?
Right.
So yeah, super exciting. We've got some new tables cooked up for Shatterpoint, which are kind of cool. I think folks will like them.
Nice.
Yeah.
We were just talking about that too, about the tables and like what your because like look, especially going from terrain from year one to year two, there was a giant leap in the terrain, especially because there was more terrain made available, and you'd used a lot of different. You started borrowing from some of the Legion pieces and things along those lines. So I'm excited to see kind of where you go from here. What's the next step in the evolution of that? Do you have any sneak peeks for that?
Yeah, I got to turn the 3D printers loose this year. So there's some
Nice.
3D printed, more like I will say Star Wars thematic tables.
Mhm.
They're not going to dominate the scene, but they're going to be sprinkled in as like again that sort of like rule of cool, like oh look at that, that's cool, right?
Right.
So we have worked some of those in. Have been the printers have been running, and we dedicated a spray team to getting them up to our standards, and now the detail guys are chipping away at them. So they'll be out there, and yeah, I think we've been kind of watching too. That first year, I mean, we didn't have any idea what. There's some of our first pieces of terrain. We had no idea what we were building when we were building it, and we did some stuff that we would never do again, right? The second year, we had a good sense when we expanded from 30 to 50 surfaces. We had a better sense of like, okay, this is how you do this, right? And so we were a little bit more methodical about it. And now we've been able to kind of flex our creative side to bring a few more things in. And I think the other thing that's always been important to me is I don't want there to be like an Adepticon stamp table, right? And so I think we're trying to, again, this year, the variety of what you approach when you get there, as far as densities and ingress and things like that, so that you have to engage the table. Like the last thing I want is people to be like, it's an Adepticon table. I know I do this, this, and this, right? Because the ingresses are always in the same place, the design is always the same, the density is all. So we're gonna try to, without being super overt about it, provide a little bit more density differentiation and ingress differentiation, because it does, right? It then makes you think about the table as well as, right? That first roll, which table side should have there should be some skin in that game, right?
Without a doubt, without a doubt. Yeah, and I think that was, especially looking back at the first year, it was one of those where, okay, well, each table has this, this, and this, and it was. I mean, but that was like I said, those were learning pains. That was like the first really major event for Shatterpoint. So there were some growing pains that went well along with those tables and everything like that. And I don't think there was anything wrong there. It was more along the lines of just kind of figuring out what was going on.
Yeah, our first goal was to just make it look good, right? The first year, like, it's got to look good. People have got to look at it and be like, wow, that's him, right? Like, shock and awe. Like, what is this thing? It's new. And so it had to be eye catching. But no one had ever played a tournament, right? Realistically. I mean, we did a little bit with Gen Con, but, Gen Con was 8-player pods. Like, so we were one of the first tournaments out of the shoe. So it was okay. Like, let's go there and put your ego aside and get ready to learn, right?
Right.
And so then we came back year two with, I think, a little bit more diversity, but again, sort of a guess, and like same thing. Check your ego and listen and watch and learn. And so I think this year we have a little bit better sense of, right. And fair going into it. It's not going to be cookie cutter tables, right? They'll all be similar, and the majority of the terrain is still going to look the way it has looked, right? But we'll do some creative layouts here and there so that not every table plays identical, and I think that then is another way that players can express their skill. Can you come to a table, analyze a table, and then make decisions that impact the game based on your skill as a player?
I like that. I like that there's it's expanding, challenging the players to sit there and go to another level, not just playing the same. It's like, because a lot of players, there's you have like maybe you only have so many people that have so many different tables of terrain at their local store or whatever, so they get used to playing on those same layouts and everything like that over and over. So it's nice that there will be something to challenge them outside of the norms that they normally have and everything along those lines. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see what you and the team bring to the tables there for sure.
It'll be. I think we'll represent well. I've seen.
Nice.
Like I said, we spray teamed them up and they look good. So I'm happy with them.
Fantastic. Well, I mean, I think that's kind of about all I wanted to talk about today. I mean, again, thanks a lot for coming on and spending an hour or so with me, kind of talking about Adepticon and everything like that. Is there like any final shout outs you want to give like before we close out here?
I'm gonna say thank you for the time. Thanks for having me. And blanket thank all the Adepticon folks. If I try to point one, I'm gonna miss somebody. And thank you. There is literally an army of people behind you making Adepticon work.
Without a doubt.
Many of them much harder than I. So we appreciate all their efforts. Hopefully making your Adepticon fun and enjoyable, and something to come back to.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know you put on a great show as far as like with the events that you run. So thank you for everything that you do as well, man. You run a very well event. Like for someone who runs events as well, it's a very smooth running event. And I think when you don't see the problems that happen in the events, when it doesn't impact the players, is when you know that something's going right. So and you and your team are very good at doing that. So. And I think if anyone wants to go to a well-run event, they should definitely be coming to play at your Shatterpoint event for sure.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Well, again, thanks, man, for joining me. And I will be seeing you in about 2 months, man. I'm excited.
It is. We'll see if I still have fingers for painting.